As a kid, I loved to watch racing, but even then I knew that I'd rather be out in Baja tearing through the desert than on the streets of Monaco. Now, if you're anything like me, you are in luck, and that's thanks to these two right here. Now, what they are factory packages which offer high-speed Baja-style off-roading straight from the dealership. This is the Chevy Colorado ZR2. That's the Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro, and we're out here today to not only find out which one is better at off-roading, but which one puts a bigger smile on my face. So before we get to the subjective smile factor, let's talk about the objective stats with these trucks. And you know what? On paper, the TRD Pro is actually looking pretty good. The Toyota gets 9.4 inches of ground clearance at the diff compared to 8.9 inches in the ZR2. When it comes to approach, the TRD Pro has a 35-degree approach angle compared to just the 30 degrees found over there in the ZR2. Even for overall capacities, the TRD Pro is a little bit better, with a tow rating of 6,800 pounds and a payload rating of 1,175 pounds. The ZR2, on the other hand, can tow 5,000 pounds, while payload is rated at 1,100 pounds. But really the most important part of these trucks is the suspension. The Toyota gets TRD-tuned off-road suspension that comes with 2.5-inch Fox internal bypass coilover shocks. In the Colorado, we also have a coilover setup with some fancy Multimatic dynamic suspension spool valve dampers. And really it's all of that suspension componentry on both of these two trucks that makes them so special. So we were out off-roading all day today. We did as much high-speed stuff as we could in those big open farm fields. We found some kind of tight forest trails to pick our way along, and we really tried to get a good cross-section of, mud and dirt and gravel and pavement to really see how these two trucks handled. So we'll start by talking about this Tacoma here, and I'll tell you what I like. And it's actually one of the first things you notice driving these two back to back. The Tacoma just feels smaller, it feels more compact on the trail, but the steering also feels more direct. This truck just really has a way of making you feel like you're one with the truck. It's almost like a small sports car in that way, where you get this really great direct connected feeling out of this truck. And that's especially good when you're hustling it on those trails. You want to feel like you're in control, and you absolutely do. And besides this truck just feeling good, it has great off-road numbers. The 35-degree approach angle, that's the best on the market for any pickup truck, period. And you know what, I'm not going to tell you that we were really pushing it today. The stuff we were on was pretty light, but there were some big enough rocks out there that a standard Tacoma, especially one with an air dam up front, definitely would have got hung up, and we didn't even have to think twice in this TRD Pro. Here in the Tacoma, you get these seats with red accent stitching, there's a shift knob and some embroidery in the headrest, but really nothing that makes it feel special. And the one thing I wish was in this Tacoma was a different steering wheel, something that had some more bolstering to it and just felt a little nicer in my hands. But at the end of the day, what really hurts this Tacoma, in my books anyway, is livability. I'm just not that comfortable in this driver's seat. I never have been. The Tacoma's driving position, you sit too tall. I'm looking through the top of the windshield. My legs kind of stretched out. I can just never quite get comfortable in this truck. Now the back seat here in the Tacoma is also a little bit less comfortable than the Colorado. This truck, the TRD Pro, is only available with the short bed and as a double cab, which means that rear seat passengers are getting just about 32 inches of leg room, whereas the Colorado can be had with two different body styles, either a double or the big crew cab. Now we have the crew cab with the short bed, and the rear seat passengers there are getting almost 36 inches. And I can tell you that there is a difference in the real world for an adult. I can sit in the back of the Colorado comfortably. I can just not really get comfortable in this Tacoma. And then to add insult to injury, the Chevy just has a much better infotainment system. It's cleaner, it's faster, it's well laid out. Even the off-road screens, both of these trucks have off-road screens, but in the Chevrolet, it shows you not only your tilt and the degrees that the truck is sitting at, but it also tells you which of the wheels is engaged, so two-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive. It tells you which of the wheels is slipping, and it even tells you your steering angle. When you look at things like that, those little details, the ZR2 just takes things a little further than this TRD Pro. So let's go drive the Chevy and I can really break down for you what's so good about it. Comfort is definitely the first word that comes to mind, switching out of the Tacoma and getting into this Colorado. This seating position just works better, and it's better for more people because this seat is so adjustable. I can move it up and down. I like it nice and low, and I can get nice and low and sit in this truck exactly where I want to be. But this is Off-Road.com, so let's talk about off-roading. Now, what makes this ZR2 so special are those DSSV dampers, and I won't even try to pretend to totally understand them, but basically they allow much more precise control of the fluid. So the idea is on road, they can be pretty stiff and still give you that kind of nice classic truck feel, and then off-road, they can take a beating, use that full shock, and give you that kind of cushiony ride that you want. On the pavement like we are now on the highway, it's honestly barely floaty at all. It feels nice and stiff. It feels almost the same as a stock Colorado. Now, I said that when I first drove the Tacoma TRD Pro, that it felt almost like a stock Tacoma, but driving them back to back, you can feel that difference. The Tacoma is still a little floaty on the highway, just a little bit. The differences are pretty negligible. I will admit that they're small, but the Colorado is just stiff. It feels planted, and most importantly, it stays comfortable. Blasting through those fields this morning, the Colorado just felt so composed. It totally just eats up those divots and the washboard, and most importantly, it just stays what feels like totally straight. You're not really working at the wheel to keep this truck going straight. The suspension really feels like it does all the work for you. It eats up the ground, but it also keeps the truck nice and stable, and there's none of the sort of jumpy feeling that you get in the Tacoma. And when you're off-road, it's that stability that just makes you feel so confident. The Tacoma feels like it's, really being pushed to the edge constantly because you're, sawing at the wheel and it's jumping all over the place. The Colorado just feels composed and relaxed, and that kind of feeling just makes you feel so confident behind the wheel and makes me want to take bigger and bigger whoops and bigger jumps and hit bigger potholes. Now, I will say that the Tacoma is actually almost a little more exciting to drive on the trail because of the way it is. And, the steering there is more direct, so you're really driving that truck. But that's really personal preference, I would take the ZR2. I'll take the more relaxed, confident ride every time. When it comes to crawling, and we didn't really do anything today that I would constitute as rock crawling, that's for sure. But when it comes to crawling, this ZR2 is better too. Now, admitted, you get about 5 less degrees of approach and about ½ an inch less of clearance overall out of this truck, but you're also getting actual locking differentials front and back. You can't really beat 2 locking diffs for slow speed crawling. And you know what? The Tacoma does get that cool crawl control system, which allows you to hit a button, it'll just crawl along at a specific speed, and then you just drive the truck. You forget about the gas and the brake, but I'll tell you that I'll take 2 locking diffs over crawl control any day of the week. Now, we did do a little bit of differential testing. We have a little off-camber section that we run through in a field to really see how the trucks split power. Now, I took both trucks through in 2-wheel drive with the rear diff lock, and of course, they made it right through. That didn't really prove much about the differentials. What it did prove to me, though, is about the tires. Now, they're both Goodyear Wranglers. However, the Tacomas are Goodyear Wranglers with Kevlar protection, and here on the ZR2 we have Goodyear Wrangler Duratracs. Now the Duratracs are more aggressive. You can just look at the tread and tell that. And because of that, they just felt way better in the mud. Our off-camber section was kind of muddy, and the ZR2 felt like it just had a little more grip, more traction. These tires just grab the dirt and go. Now, the aftermarket would take care of that if you wanted better tires for your Tacoma, but straight out of the gate, you're getting better rubber here on the ZR2 as well. Here in the ZR2, you can get a 3.6 liter V6, which is, pretty similar to the Tacomas, but the engine that we have is actually a Duramax diesel. It's a 2.8 liter diesel, and it makes 369 pound-feet of torque at just 2,000 RPM, and out on the trail, that torque feels really good. Now, to be honest, if I was buying this truck, I might get the gas engine. You kind of just want that responsiveness from the engine and to be able to just rev it right up. However, like I said, we have the diesel, so I can tell you about this motor. When we were off-road today, the torque was excellent. As I mentioned, we would go through those big puddles and you'd lose a lot of speed. You'd scrub tons of speed. Coming out the other side, I'd put my foot to the floor on the Tacoma, and that V6 just doesn't feel like it has the grunt. However, when this thing is actually already up in the RPM range, you come out of losing speed, put your foot into it, and boom, there's the torque, and it just feels nice. But don't let me sugarcoat it too much. Off the line, yeah, this diesel is definitely not a speed demon, and I think that's the weakest part of both of these trucks. They're both good off-road packages, great suspension tuning, but nothing is done to the powertrains. They both need more power. If they had more power, it just makes them feel that much more special. Look at the Ford Raptor. Everyone loves to talk about the Raptor. It's the bar in off-roading. What does it have? A more powerful engine. It's too bad Chevy and Toyota didn't take a page from that book. A few last things about the diesel. It's a $3,500 option on this truck, so if you're gonna go for it, you better like diesel. And secondly, it still has the exhaust brake, so if you are doing any towing with this ZR2 and you get the diesel, you're gonna be a little bit better equipped than the Tacoma ever could be. And finally, let's talk pricing. The Tacoma TRD Pro with the 6-speed manual transmission, and let me just add, it's awesome that there is a 6-speed manual transmission available, well, that truck sells for $41,215. Bump up to the automatic like we had it today, and that TRD Pro sells for $43,215. Now the ZR2 actually starts cheaper at just $40,995, and that's with the gas engine and an automatic transmission. Now, as mentioned before, the diesel is a $3,500 option, and as you see on our test truck, we had those sport bars installed by Chevy Accessory Parts. So with all of that stuff added in, this Colorado ZR2 as it sits costs just over $47,000. So the Colorado is cheaper to start, but there are plenty of options which drive up that price tag. So at the high end, this truck is definitely going to cost more than a TRD Pro. So look, honestly, picking one of these trucks, it's a really tough call. And that's because they're both a lot of fun. They both put a smile on my face all day long. And why wouldn't they? I mean, it's a beautiful sunny day. We've got tons of trails. I'm out of the office. And if that's what you're looking for, off-road thrills, smiles on the dirt, honestly, both of these trucks are going to serve you well. But for our purposes, there has to be a winner, so let's break it down. The Tacoma TRD Pro does a lot of things right. It feels really compact on the trail. It feels lightweight, has great steering feel. It really makes you feel one with the vehicle when you're hustling it, and I love that. However, when you're looking at the whole package, I think you have to go with the Colorado ZR2. This thing is just more comfortable on and off-road. You get front and rear locking differentials, and when you're hustling it, the suspension just eats up the bumps a little bit better. It stays a little bit more composed, and that makes it feel extremely confident. So if you're looking for a mid-size truck that is livable every single day, but also delivers your Baja dreams on the weekend, look no further than the Colorado ZR2.